All right, guys, so the first Packers OTA session that was open to the media is now officially in the books. I just released a video going over the highlights or the video highlights from today's OTA practice. So if you want to go watch that video after this one, simply click the link right above. But in today's video, we're going to go over the key takeaways, the main practice notes from 7v7s and 11v11s, see who lined up with the starters. Since you can't film during 7v7s and 11v11s, we don't have any footage from that, but we can still talk about it and we can still kind of go over the main takeaways from today's practice. I want to give a quick shout out to all the beat writers that are on the scene at practice, giving us all of this information via Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I'll put all their links down in the description where we get a lot of this news. I'm just compiling it all up and giving my thoughts and reaction to it as well. So again, shout out to all those guys. If you want more Packers news analysis and updates throughout the entirety of the offseason, such as every OTA practice, we go over a key takeaways. We also do a highlight video, and of course that will continue into mandatory minicamp and training camp as well. So if that sort of thing does interest you and you want more Green Bay Packers content over the offseason and throughout the regular season, go click subscribe down below. I also wanted to remind you guys, I'm still giving away this signed Packers Christian Watson away jersey here. And I'm happy I'm giving this one away. Thank you to Sleeper, because Christian Watson looked great in today's practice. And again, this giveaway is sponsored. Thank you to Sleeper. Sleeper is a daily fantasy sports app where you can choose between 2 to 8 players, pick a specific stat, and then choose higher or lower. For example, with the NBA playoffs still ongoing, you can choose a stat such as points, rebounds, assists, even double doubles. So then you can make your picks 2 to 8 players from any different sport, and you can win up to 100x payouts. And right now on Sleeper, you can get a $100 deposit match using code BASS, BAS, with the link down in the description. That means if you deposit $100, you'll then have $200 to play around with. And heading over to Sleeper, making an account and making a first-time deposit also enters you in this signed Christian Watson away Packers jersey, so it's a win-win. So again, guys, head down to the link in the description, download Sleeper, make a first-time deposit, go make your picks, and that's all with code BASS, B-A-S. Thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring this giveaway and today's video. All right, so now let's dive down into the key takeaways from OTA practice number 1, or at least the first practice. Media was there, right? They started OTAs yesterday, but no media was allowed to be there, so we don't really have any notes from that at all, but we do have notes today. OTAs also continue on Thursday, May 23rd, then there's a slight break, then they continue May 28th through the 29th and 31st, then a little break again, then June 3rd and 4th and 6th, and then another break, and then mandatory minicamp June 11th through the 13th. So like I said, we'll have all those updates every day that's open to the media right here on this channel. All right, so let's dive right into it, and we're going to start with the attendance of today's practice, which was great. It was near 100%, and Matt LaFleur mentioned this was the first time he's had this great of attendance during OTAs, because of course we know OTAs are voluntary, and through the past couple of years, we've seen stars such as Jair Alexander, sit out OTAs, and that simply wasn't the case this year. The energy is immaculate. Keyshawn Banks was the only player not in attendance today, and that was an excused absence. Now, in terms of the players that were here today but not practicing, Josh Jacobs is one of them, which we'll talk about here in a second. Tucker Kraft, Katana Oladapo, Zach Tom with a pectoral injury for Zach Tom. That's something that everyone was wondering. Why was he sitting out? It's a pectoral injury, but it's nothing serious. Tyler Davis and Alex Magoo. Now, Alex Magoo, the quarterback turned wide receiver, did start practice, but then left with a hamstring injury. Matt LaFleur mentioned after practice that Josh Jacobs' injury was a hamstring injury, but he should be back soon. It's nothing serious. It's just precautionary, keeping him out of a voluntary practice. Now, he did mention Tucker Kraft's pectoral injury is a little bit more serious. He's in an arm sling, just like Matt LaFleur was, so he said he joined the Matt LaFleur injury list. And he mentioned that Tucker Kraft will be out until training camp, so we won't see Kraft until at least the start of training camp. Matt LaFleur also mentioned that both Eric Stokes and Christian Watson were in the best shape he's ever seen them in, which is great because both of these players, have suffered so many countless injuries over the past couple of seasons and just can't stay healthy. More so Stokes than Watson, but Watson did see a soft tissue injury specialist in Madison, Wisconsin this offseason to get to the root cause of all these hamstring and lower leg injuries. So hopefully that's finally in the rear view mirror. Matt LaFleur mentioned once we get through the entirety of training camp, that's a very good sign if Watson can do all of that. Also, very interestingly and great news, Enigbare is a full go. He never had surgery, and he only had a partial tear of his ACL. After last season, Enigbare in his closing interview pretty much said he tore his ACL, which, technically speaking, he did, but it wasn't a full tear, and he never needed surgery. So we all kind of were under the assumption this whole offseason that Enigbare wasn't going to be available until late November. That's not the case. This guy is practicing fully right at the start of OTAs, doesn't have a leg sleeve, doesn't have a leg brace, and he is ready to go, which is huge for this edge room that needed depth, and now they have it. Now I want to quickly go over the starting lineups and also the second string offensive line because, offensive line is something that is going to be under a microscope this entire offseason, and it's the first OTA, so there wasn't much action in terms of 7v7s versus 11v11s, but more importantly, we saw who started to line up with the starters, and it is as follows. Now, this is the offensive line without Zach Tom. He was here today, just not practicing, and it is Rasheed Walker at left tackle, Elton Jenkins at left guard, Josh Myers at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and Andre Dillard at right tackle. So Andre Dillard plugged right into that starting spot in Zach Tom's absence. The Packers generally do this at the start of the offseason. They're never going to throw rookies right into it at the start of the offseason. They're going to give it to the veterans, the snaps, and then the rookies are going to have to work their way in. But Jordan Morgan did get some first team reps at right tackle and left tackle. None at guard today, so it really seems like the Packers are trying to keep him at tackle. Another interesting note is Elton Jenkins got reps at center. So we all kind of are sitting here wondering who could be center number 2. Now, Jacob Monk also got reps at center number 2, which we'll go over. So it seems like backup center at this point is Elton Jenkins or Jacob Monk. And, maybe Zach Tom. Again, he didn't practice today, so maybe he would have saw some reps at center if that's the route the Packers want to go. But they're really going to be doing everything to find their best 5 offensive linemen, that's for sure. As for the second string offensive line, it was as follows. Caleb Jones at left tackle, Donovan Jennings at left guard, who I heard had a good day of practice and is another one of these undrafted free agents that a lot of people are going to be talking about this offseason. Jacob Monk at backup center, at least in terms of the second team offensive line. That could definitely be his future starting position for the Green Bay Packers. This is the last year of Josh Myers, most likely. Jacob Monk could be the Packers starting center as early as 2025, or maybe even this season, depending on how things go. Kadeem Telfort at right guard. This is something that's new. Telfort kind of only listed as a tackle, at least the whole time he's been on the Green Bay Packers, and we never really saw him play any guard. So this is an interesting one here. Telfort playing some right guard with the second team. It's not like it's the third team. And then Luke Tenuta at right tackle. And as I mentioned, Jordan Morgan swapped in and out at both tackle spots with the first team. Also, for all the people clamoring for A.J. Dillon to be the fullback, H-back type of role, he was a pure running back today. He didn't get a single snap at that H-back spot. It's still early in the offseason. It still could happen, but doesn't seem like it's going to at this very moment. As for the starting defense, now this is in a nickel defense, which is what the Packers are mainly going to be in, but that's, of course, with only 2 linebackers, so it was as follows. Now in their 4-3, it's much easier to list off a starting defense because I can just talk about the 4 defensive linemen, and that was Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, TJ Slayton, and Rashawn Gary. And the 2 linebackers in this nickel defense to start, Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker. As I said, early in the offseason, the Packers are going to put their veterans there. They're not going to throw a rookie right into the starting lineup right off the bat. Will Edgerrin Cooper earn that starting role? Probably. He actually got some reps with the ones today. They swapped him in for Quay Walker, so then it was Edgerrin Cooper and Isaiah McDuffie. He's going to get plenty of opportunity. And in terms of cornerback, it was Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander, and Nixon in the slot. In my highlight video, I talked about Valentine, and I said it's probably his job to lose, but I guess not. The Packers started Eric Stokes opposite Jair in terms of, starting lineups in the first OTA. So if he's healthy, it seems like it might be Eric Stokes' job to lose, and Carrington Valentine has to fight for that starting role opposite Jair. As for safety, of course, it was Xavier McKinney deep, and we're all kind of wondering who would start next to him to start the offseason. And I was saying it was going to be Anthony Johnson Jr., and it was. Again, the Packers put, I wouldn't call him a veteran, because he's a second-year player, but in terms of the rest of the safety room, he kind of is. So Anthony Johnson Jr. Started next to Xavier McKinney, and they also moved Xavier McKinney around a lot. He wasn't just the pure post safety like everyone has been saying in today's practice. They moved him into the box a lot in today's practice, with Anthony Johnson Jr. staying deep. So that's something very important to note. In terms of special teams, Daniel Whelan had a great practice. He's the only punter on the roster, and it seems like he's very well keeping that job. He had some great punts today. And punt return, Reed was punt return number 1, Nixon was punt return number 2. Going over some notes, 11v11 and 7v7s. There's not much to go over here. Again, it's the first OTA, but some key notes. The offense was on fire during 7v7s today. Love went 6 for 6, so go place your bets on Love getting the MVP of the 2024 season. Christian Watson had a great catch in 7v7s today, probably the catch of the day. Plucked a high ball out of the air from Jordan Love. Jordan Love also had a deep touchdown pass to Samori Toure in today's practice, a receiver that we've all kind of forgot about at this point, myself included, and I was a huge Toure supporter. I really wanted him to kind of flourish into the receiver I thought he could be, and that simply never happened, and he's kind of hidden on the depth chart at this point. I think he'd be, at best a practice squad receiver for the Packers in 2024. There's just so much depth above him that have, shown in training camp and preseason, whereas he hasn't. So that does it for all the key takeaways of OTA practice number 1. Again, we have a practice Thursday. I'm not sure if that's open to the media, but if it is, you'll find similar videos to this and the highlight one earlier today also on Thursday. So go down, click subscribe. You don't want to miss it. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the channel. If you could, please leave a like down below. It supports the channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.